Hello FlossTube, welcome to Snickerdoodle Stitch. My name is Kathleen and this is a channel about cross stitch. So today I'm going to share a recap of Stitch New Jersey, which was fantastic. It remains one of my favorite retreats, and I've got an FFO, I've got a couple finishes and a whole lot of stitching. And I've got some haul and some freebies and things from Stitch New Jersey. So lots to share tonight. So I'm going to dive right in. Stitch New Jersey was absolutely fabulous. So it is every July and it's a relatively small retreat, like 125 people, I think. And it's kind of a small room. It would probably be my only thing I'm not crazy about is that the tables are very close together. But there's an upside to that too. You really get to know everybody in that room. So there is something to be said for proximity and getting to know people. I had fantastic table mates. My friend Margaret came. Margaret was on the Alaska cruise that I went on last year. And Margaret is going on the Mediterranean cruise, Mediterranean European cruise that we're going to do next year. So Margaret was there, and I sat with Amanda and Jessie Marie, and it's my second year sitting with them. Amanda I've run into at other retreats too. So, and then Christina, who 2 years ago got the Smalls Exchange at Stitch North in Toronto, which it was one of my very first retreats that I went to, and she got my small there. And I thought it was funny at the time because she was from Philadelphia. So here we are all the way in Toronto, and the person that gets my small is somebody local. This year at Stitch North, my friend Jane, who I knew, she's not from local, she's from New England. Jane of the Boss Stitchers got my small there. But anyway, enough about Stitch North. I'm getting sidetracked. And then 3 new ladies, so made some new friends. So we had a fun table, just a really good time. And I've got stuff from the freebie table. I didn't buy too much. The raffle fundraiser at Stitch New Jersey is the best raffle of any retreat anywhere. There were, I think, just under 200 prizes there. So Arlene spends all year asking companies for things to donate, and then a lot of attendees donate things. I donated one of the small, the pink mini toolboxes that were all the rage that you can pick up at Lowe's. So I won some things in the raffle, and the raffle there raises money for a local animal shelter. So yeah, nice things. I got some table giveaway stuff to show. It just really was a fantastic time, and it starts Thursday at 3 and runs through Sunday at 4, but I did stay over Sunday night. For me, coming from New Jersey back to Delaware on Sunday, I have to time things right, and it can be tricky, or else I get caught in beach traffic heading back into Philadelphia and Delaware. When I get to southern New Jersey, I get caught in traffic trying to come across the bridges that I also need to get across to get back into Delaware. So I decided to just stay over until Monday, and that was actually fun. There was a small group that was still there Sunday evening, so everybody just kept stitching. And usually on Sunday, I'm frantically trying to catch up on all the stitching that I didn't do while I was too busy gabbing and checking out everybody else's stitching all weekend. But I got a lot of stitching done at this retreat, and I got 2 finishes done while I was there. So let me dive in and share. The first thing I'm going to share, I did not stitch on at Stitch New Jersey. I FFO'd it. And I had shown it was finished last episode, I think. But it's this Luminous Fiber Arts, a Stitcher's Quaker. And sorry, I've got a lot going on here tonight. And I got it framed. So this is on 32 count. It's just plain white linen. And it's stitched with Silks for You PR 126. And this is just an 8x8 frame. So 32 count fits perfectly in an 8x8 frame. I did spray paint it red. I painted it so that it would match this other Luminous Fiber Arts piece, which I did last year. So now I can display them together. But here it is a little up closer. And I'm really happy with how that came out framed. So my FFO is done. One FFO anyway. 9 million more to go. All right. Where is this in here? So on Thursday, my first day at the retreat, I finished the tiny town, Frosty Town. So there is one house that's left out, and there's a tree that's left out over here. And that's intentional because I have the stand that I want to use for this to FFO it. And the stand is 11 inches wide. So I needed this to be a little narrower than that. So I left a couple things out intentionally. And I don't have the pattern. I'm sorry. Since I finished this, I gave it to my friend Maureen. Hi, Maureen. I know she usually watches. So here it is finished. I don't know what the fabric is. It was a scrap. And I did just stitch this in the DMCs. I didn't use the overdyes. To me, these little things, I mean, it's such little bits of color that I'm not sure with an overdye that you would even see the variegation. So to me, it's the perfect project to just whip out those DMCs on. But this is finished, so I expect next time you may see this FFO'd. So that was my first finish of the weekend. I didn't finish it Thursday. Thursday, I think I got one little tree stitched in. I was way too busy meeting up with people, you know, just chatting with my old friends from there and from other retreats, and just way too distracted. So I hardly got any stitching done on Thursday. And then Friday was not a whole lot better. Needlework by Jim had their shop open Friday. I spent some time in there. I didn't spend a lot of money at this retreat. And then Saturday morning, only for a few hours, they have another room where retreat attendees can rent a table and sell things. So Grace Notes Fabrics was there. She had kind of a double table. Pretty Pins was there. I didn't buy anything from them this year, but I have bought things in the past and shown them. They do some really sweet pins, like little miniature tomato pin cushions on the tops of pins, and they have some really cute fall ones, little teeny tiny pumpkins and acorns. And 2 different bag makers. Kim was there with bags, and I can't think of the other bag maker's name. I feel awful. And I have one of her bags. It's one of my travel projects is in it from a couple years ago. And who else was there? Somebody was there with needle minders and some assorted supplies. Like I bought this little wheel of pony needles. So these are not the black pony needles where the whole needle is painted. But I do like these needles, and I thought this little wheel with multiple sizes in it's great for my travel kit. So she had some things like that, some Nerge hoops and some other things. And I think that might have been everybody. I'm forgetting somebody. Trying to remember who was right. Oh, and Arlene was there, Works by ABC. So Arlene Cohen is who the hostess is for the weekend, and she had her patterns there, and she's got just beautiful patterns, and she's so sweet. I did buy one of her patterns, which I've been eyeing up, so I'll show it when I get to haul. But so this took me Thursday and most of Friday to get done because I was very distracted. All right, sorry, thought I was being organized getting this ready for later, but it's gonna be in my way, so let me reshuffle here, and my apologies. My second finish, I'm so excited with this one. Madame Chantilly, Notte, Stelle. And this is the pattern. And I started this 2 years ago at Stitching in the Wild. I bought the fabric there. The fabric is 28 count Lugana from Fabrics by Stephanie, and it's called Nantucket Sky. And it's my favorite sky fabric, but I got it done. I had everything done except the little girl and the net. So I had like 1 foot stitched in just so I had my starting place that required a little more concentration and counting. But other than that, I had to stitch the whole little girl and the net, and I got this done, and I love it. I have the frame picked out already. I really struggled with what color frame to use. So the frame that I ended up with is a very, very dark brown, almost black. I debated white, but when I put white with it, so this is for me, right? I'm pretty sure the pattern's designed more for probably like an 8-year-old girl, but I wanted this, and so I stitched it. But the white pattern does make it look more like something you would put in a juvenile room. So I'm gonna go with the darker frame. I've got to try it on here again to see if I want to paint it black or not. I mean, I guess I could do a red frame. I don't know. I'm probably just going to go with the frame the way it is. It's a frame that I picked up at Marshall's. I in all my stash didn't have one the right size. This is like 14.5 by 14.5, and I had a 16-inch frame, which I don't have enough fabric up here to accommodate unless I had a lot of space down here, and that looked kind of dumb. Had I planned it out better, I would have started this lower, and then that would have worked and just looked like more sky up there. And then I had a 12-inch frame, so I went to Marshall's, and they did have a frame that is the perfect size and will work. So, but there she is, all done. And the saying, it's charted in English, French, and Italian, and it's an Oscar Wilde quote that says, it's like it's important to have dreams big enough that you don't lose sight of them. Here it is a little more up close. My little girl, but I love that. I'm not entirely sure where I'm gonna hang that. We'll see after I get it framed. All right, Friday night, they do a 3 and 3. So you start 3 things in 3 hours. So 7:30, 8:30, 9:30. You start. I wasn't going to do the 3 and 3 this year because my goal wasn't to start 3 things, although I did finish 2. So my main goal for the year is to end with no more whips than I had at the end of last year, which I think was like 59. And I think I'm probably running about pretty even. But I did want to do a start. So I started digging through things that I had kitted up, and I couldn't make up my mind. And then I thought, I'm just going to go ahead and start 3 things because I can't decide. So I did 3 starts. So I'm going to show you my 3 starts in the order that I did them. And you will see that by the time you get to that 3rd hour, productivity is significantly decreased. So my first start was Quaker Turtle from AuryTM. And someone else at my table had just finished this and had it framed. So they had a picture of theirs framed. And then somebody else said they almost did this for the 3 and 3. But so that AuryTM turtle, the reason I bought this pattern, and I do love the pattern, but I kept looking at it and thinking, I don't know, do I want a turtle? And then I remembered that I have this floss. So this floss was an exclusive at Stitching in the Wild 2 years ago, so the first year. And it was dyed, it's a Rami's Creations floss. And I know for a while at least you could buy it on Garon Stitchery's site. It was one that she was just dyeing for him. I looked recently and don't see it on the site, so I don't know if that means they're out of it or, you know, maybe he just wasn't selling enough of it. But this lime green in here, they call Gary's green. In fact, the name of this floss is Garon's Colors. But we were gifted one in our bag that year at Stitching in the Wild, and then somebody else gave me theirs. And so since I had 2, I bought a few more. I just thought they were beautiful. They're not coming through great on screen. This one is looking very, oh, actually that one does have a lot of yellow in it. It's got way more yellow than these. These are more representative. Hopefully these are enough. So that is the floss that I'm using, and my fabric is Lappin' Loops. Let me see what the heck this is called. It's 32 count Sunken Depths. So this was my start. I will admit I did some more work on this. This is more than an hour of stitching. It's probably 2 hours of stitching. So when I went digging for fabric for this fabric is way more modeled than what I normally would like. I don't know where I got this. It's a full half yard, and I think I must have ordered it from somewhere or got it in a D-stash. I'm not sure. Because normally I wouldn't buy something this heavily modeled, but it's perfect for the turtle, especially since the turtle's in one floss. Granted, the floss is variegated, but the turtle itself is not going to be terribly busy. I would hesitate to do something like a mirror on this because I feel like the fabric sometimes can overtake the stitching, but I'm okay with that. And the stitching is showing up on there great. The color is gonna, yeah, it's not purple like it's looking now. Someday, folks, I will figure out this color. I wonder if I tip it. No? I'm gonna have to Google that. That makes me crazy. The why when I get to a certain closeness, the color changes. I mean, I can watch it happen on screen. So anyway, that was my first hour, was my turtle. Loving that. I'm not sure when it's going to get some more love, but all right, this next one. This has been on my wish list for a while. It is Rosewood Manor Blue Rhapsody. And if you go to Carolyn Zook's Floss Tube, she has been stitching on this year. I did not get any more. This is on 32 count. Picture this plus fog, F-O-G, not frog. I've got amphibians on the mind or something. And I'm stitching it with, it only uses 2 colors of floss, and I'm using Gloriana Silks, and I'm using Federal Blue and Northern Lights. I did in the LNS, I picked up the called for flosses, and then I looked for silks that were approximately the same colors, and that's what I ended up with. Vicki Clayton does have a silk conversion for it. Jen, who owns Floss and Flame in Dover, Delaware, a relatively new cross stitch shop, she was stitching this. She had started it Sunday, so she was using the Vicki Clayton silks. In fact, I should have asked her if she carries. I keep seeing a loose thread. When I turn it around, I don't know where it is. I need to see if she carries Vicki Clayton silks. So this is hour 2. This was 8:30 to 9:30. That is an hour of stitching. It doesn't look like a lot. There's a lot of counting, and there's a few floss changes, color changes happening in there, as you can tell. So, yeah, an hour doesn't get you. 1 hour, you know, it takes you 5 or 10 minutes just to get the project situated. I did have my first stitch stitched on each one before I went, but just to kind of orient yourself on the chart and figure out and then get rolling, a chunk of your hour is gone. So that's more the color of the fabric. It's cream, but it has some gray modeling on it, which would make sense, called fog. But sorry, it doesn't look very exciting, which is that little corner. All right, then we get to hour 3, and this is when it's really hard to just stay focused and concentrating, and you're feeling the need to get up and walk or something at that point. At least I am. But this is Scattered Seed Samplers, and it's called Shelter from the Storm. And this is the pattern. And I saw this at Stitch North, and she had stitched it with the mushroom cap in red. So it wasn't as rustic of colors. I don't know if she had swapped anything else. I think it may have just been the red. We'll see as I get along with it. I am stitching this on a scrap of Harvest, 32 count Harvest. I don't know who makes Harvest. I only had it labeled as Harvest. And here is the least exciting start in the history of the world. So this is the bottom of the mushroom cap. It's actually, almost a couple hundred stitches, but it just doesn't look like much. But that was hour 3. So those are my 3 starts. And that was everything. No, that wasn't everything that I stitched at Stitch New Jersey. This next one is the last thing I stitched, and I have stitched on it the last 2 years at Stitch New Jersey. I bought this also at Stitching in the Wild 2 years ago, so that year it was in May. It's Erica Michaels, The Beach is Calling. And between it being summertime and beachy, July is the perfect time to stitch on it. And then this pattern was actually done for the cross stitch shop in New Jersey, in Cape May. So you can't see it, but the trolley actually says Cape May on it. And these are the Victorian beach houses that Cape May is known for. I am doing it on the called for. It's Fabrics by Stephanie. 32 count chocolate is the name of the fabric. And I stitched on this some since I've gotten back, and here's what I got done. Everything here from Sandcastle this way, and then everything on the bottom here except for the words. So I had lighthouse and shells done, but all of these waves and the pier and this house and the shell and the boat, these waves. So basically everything below boardwalk except the words, and then everything on this side of Sandcastle I stitched. My goal was to get this stitched far enough along that next year it will be a finish. Next year would be year 4. Good grief, would be year 4 stitching on this, and really something this size shouldn't take 4 years. The problem is July is kind of the only time this gets pulled out, and I'll talk a little bit about my August stitching. I'm really torn on whether to pull this out some more. So there is a big huge lighthouse over here that's going to be very boring to stitch. So that's going to be some retreat stitching. And then there's also a whole bunch of sand, like 4 rows under this boardwalk down here. And that's going to be really boring stitching. And then these are some houses, and there's a couple other there's a crab and some doodads up here. So even though summer will be over, I may take this to Stitching in the Wild in September, since I started this at Stitching in the Wild. I don't know that I would finish it this year, but it may go with me there. We shall see. But this is a fun stitch, and I need to get it out. I should have gotten it out in June. I guess I could stitch on it this month. Well, I said we'll talk a little bit about August at the end, what my stitchy plans are. But yeah, here on this is big enough. You can see the trolley says Cape May. Well, and the fact that there's a trolley, that's a Cape May thing. So Cape May is a Victorian beach town in southern New Jersey. You can take the ferry from there to Lewis, Delaware. I've never done the ferry. I grew up very close to Lewis, but from here, it would take me as long to drive to Lewis as it does for me to drive to Cape May. I'm sort of in a midpoint. All right, the last thing I stitched, one of my 2 focus pieces. It was supposed to be the focus piece, but Cornwall Cottage Simpler has also taken a spot as a focus piece. But this is the AuryTM from Toledo to Toledo. And my goal is to finish this year. And I'm making really good progress. So I stitched this beast of a band over here. This was 4 nights of stitching. It's a lot. This band is long. This is on 28 count fiber on a whim, cream and sugar, and it's with the called for flosses. And I am really close to done. I've got 1 band that goes here, 2 that go up here, and then the monogram, and I will be done. So I'm done all of the very lengthy bands. In fact, if we look at the pattern, So I have this band. This one's very dense. That's gonna take a couple nights. And then I've got this one, and then this is not as dense, of course. And then the monogram and the little corner doodad. So it is getting there. I think I will, I'm 90% sure I will achieve my goal of finishing this year. The trick will be, I need to get it done before October. So I've really got 2 months left. But if I have 1, 2, 3, 4, so every floss tube between now and the end of September, you should be seeing some piece done, and end of September it will be done. Because the challenge will be in October, I'll really want to start, I want to do fall stitching, and then I roll right from fall into Christmas. And so if I don't get this done before October, it won't get picked up again until next year. So, but I think I may get it done. And the longer I work on it, the more I love it. I just, this piece is so much fun to stitch. If I can get it to focus, maybe if I cover my face. But yeah, this band here is what I did, and it was a lot, but still loving it. All right, that was all the stitching. Now, let's talk retreat stuff. Let me get my tote bag up here that I threw on the floor. Let me do some minor rearranging. See if I can do it without starting an avalanche. So at the retreat this year, I always have really nice tote bags at Stitch New Jersey. This year it's a really big one, and I love this. At first I was like, what the heck am I gonna do with a bag that big? It does zip on the top. But I discovered that my Case Creation lap stand, which is a big wooden lap stand, actually fits very nicely in here, along with other things. So this will be a nice bag for retreats. And then in the bag, there was another bag full of goodies. So every year they've given us one of these, and it always has a sticker on it with Arlene designs a pattern for each year. And that's what she had designed. And then in here, we had these little rechargeable table fans. Those were getting used a lot. Really cute little, this holds, it's got post-it notes and then post-it note flags in there. We got some really cute, I should have had this out of the bag, sorry folks. We had some really cute bling for, if I can get it to turn around and stay turned around, and if I can get it to focus. It's got a little pair of scissors and a little heart on there. So some bling for a project bag. There was some Dinky Dye sample in there. There was some Threadworks floss, really nice fall color. And then some Treenway silk samples. There was a Skein a Week's Dyeworks floss in there. And this is Honeysuckle, which is a really pretty, here I'll hold it up on my shirt. It's a really pretty creamy yellow. It's really nice. And then a needle minder with the pattern that Arlene had designed. So lots of fun goodies in our bag. And then let me go through some other table stuff. Grace Notes gave everybody a swatch of fabric. This is Lugana. I don't know what color it is, but it's a good ornament sized piece. Amanda was at my table, and she gave everybody a thing of maple syrup. She and her husband run a maple syrup farm in Vermont. So it's Matt's Maple Syrup, I think is the name. Yes, Matt's Maple Syrup. And I got some from her last year, and it's really good. Jessie Marie gave us little zipper pouches, which had some goodies in there. Some of her floss drops. There's some color and cotton floss. Some Post-it notes. Some Lady Dot Creates Chanel trim. So other little goodies in there. And all right, so Joanne watches my Floss Tube, and she came up to introduce herself, and she is from Western Canada, and she brought me a cherry, an upside down. How about a right side up cherry cake mix, which you cannot buy in the States, but you can buy in Canada. And I talked about it when I went to Stitch North, and so she brought me a cherry cake mix. How sweet was that? I had a lot of fun with Joanne. She was there Sunday late as well, Sunday afternoon, after people were really kind of heading out. And so I got to spend some more time with her. One of my table mates just had some stuff. They were asking, does anybody want this? Or I'm going to throw it on the freebie table. And I got a piece of 36 count fiber on a whim night sky linen. And it is a beautiful blue. And it's an entire half yard. I don't know what would be big enough to need a half yard of 36 count, but it's beautiful. It's not as, well, yes, I guess it is in that one spot. I was going to say it's not as modeled in person as it's looking on screen, but there is one spot that's very modeled. So that was from one of the other table mates. There was a smalls exchange. I gave my Be Your Own Kind of Beautiful project bag that I made. And I got from McKenna. This is Prairie Fairy from Prairie Schooler. And how sweet is that? And I don't know if you're going to be able to tell. I'm picking up a bad glare. There, maybe that's better. The fabric she dyed herself with coffee grounds. And I don't think you can tell, but the needle that the fairy is holding is actually the needle that she used to stitch the piece with. How sweet is that? And that needle fits perfectly. I don't know what size needle the little fairy is supposed to be holding. All right, now I'm picking up glare from my screen. You don't need to see the minutes. There, maybe that's better. So that was really sweet. I was really thrilled with my small. I do have a short video of the smalls, at least the ones that people left on the table long enough. So after everybody exchanges their smalls, you know, they ask for you to bring them back up and put them on the table so that everybody can see what everybody else's was, and ooh and ah, and that's always fun. And it was very crowded around these two tables. So I did take a video. It's very short, and I didn't catch everything, unfortunately, because people are funny. They're like, I don't want to leave it there. Somebody might take it now. So But I will put that at the very end if you're interested in seeing what the smalls were. I did get some stuff on the freebie table. I picked up Heartstrings Samplery, Rock and Roll Sampler. And it says, I want to rock and roll all night and cross stitch every day. And someone in the local guild was stitching this. And I'm not 100% sure. I think I like the saying more than I like the sampler, might be my problem. Yeah, I don't, the grown men cherub thing, I just don't get. Yeah, we'll see. That's my first freebie anyway. I got some other cool freebies. So this is Canvas Works Square number 4, and this is from Arlene from Works by ABC, and it is like needlepoint. It's canvas work. It's not cross stitch, but it looked interesting. The piece of canvas is in there. I know I've got some pearl cotton, or ooh, that could be even pretty with some over dyed floss. It's something I can do in low light, that kind of project, so it could be a good travel one. This Gloria and Pat, oh, I miss their patterns. They had really nice patterns, although they were heavy on the back stitch. This was Merry Christmas 1997, and I picked it up because I want to do this mouse right here, because I have one Christmas tree that the whole tree is mice. Actually, this Precious Moments little girl is really sweet too. I may end up doing that as well. What's the size on these? The little girl is 70 by 51, so not very big. And the mouse is 67 by 56. All right, so they're all about the same size. But that's why I picked that. I picked it up for the mouse. Then Shannon Christine, the England mug. And I didn't realize when I picked it up that this is a troll, a gnome in there, and I'm not really into the gnome thing. But I have a couple of the mugs from Easter. And then the Canada mug, which has a little moose in it, was what I got in the Smalls Exchange at Stitch North. So when I saw the England mug, I was like, oh, I want the England mug, but I could do it without the gnome. I don't know. The gnome's gonna be one of those things like teddy bears that, you know, 15 years from now we're gonna be going, oh yeah, I remember when those were on everything. All right, this next freebie, I got two that are sort of similar styles on the freebie table. This is Joan Elliott, Give Thanks for All Things. And I think I've seen this stitched before. But I have some crazy green and some crazy orange kind of fabrics that this would be pretty cool on. It's all just stitched in black. $138 by $318. That sucker's big. So on 14 count, it's 10 by 23. Yeah, it's big. This one, what does it say This one may be part of a bigger piece. Oh good, the whole thing's in here. I was worried when I saw part 6 that it wasn't all in here, but it's from Lakeside Needlecraft. It's a Darlene Jones pattern, and it's called Spooky Halloween Part 6. It looks sufficient to me as is, but I'm wondering now, was it a long piece similar to that Joan Elliott that I just showed? And this is just one section of it. This section is big enough. So I got a couple of Halloween pieces, and then this was my last thing from the freebie table. So this is For the Love of Cross Stitch, and it is January of some year. It's volume 14. And I want to do this Santa on the cover, and he looks like he would be very large and involved, right? But when I look at the pattern, I was like, oh, the pattern fits on, I can't show you, but it fits on 2 pages. And the stitch count is only 127 by 87. So in 14 count, he's only 9 by 6. So he's not very big, but he's got a lot of detail. It's just a fun Santa for that size. Because when I first looked at it, I was like, I can't do that. I've already got Santa Elegance, and then I've got the pattern and all the beads for white Santa. And we had a long discussion at my table about that. Joanne had stitched it on Fabric Flare fabric, which I need to call the shop she got it to see if it's still available. It looks like it may not be. I can't find it on their site or on Fabric Flares, but basically it was a dark fabric that had a little bit of star snowflakey looking stuff, and then some snow at the bottom, and white Santa really pops on it. So now it's got me wanting to start white Santa. So I was like, I don't need to start a third Santa, but this is not very big. Now, it's got 40, it's got like 40 colors on it, but the pattern itself is not very big. It's gonna be a little time consuming with all those color changes, but oh, I lost some other freebie stuff, other table gift stuff. So Christina gave everybody the little salt cellar with the felt ball in there, a little pin cushion. This is actually a good it's a good size to good size needle for either pulling a thread to get the straight green or picking out work. So she had made those, and my friend Tessa, who I didn't sit with this year, but I did get to chat with her. Oh, I just dropped both of them. Oh, good grief. So Shrinky Dinks, but it's a little mouse, and I love my mice. And excuse me while I go off camera 1 second. Because I dropped both of these. I meant to wear these today. She made earrings with floss. Let me put one of them at least back on the card so you can see what the I dropped it again. Got like butterfingers here tonight. Good grief. It's a good thing I'm doing this instead of stitching. Let me cover my face. Now it'll show up. And she's got the floss number on there. That's cute. So yeah, little floss earrings. She's very clever. She's always making things. And then some like counting pincushion pins, counting pins. Those were sweet. Those were not Tessa. And let me grab this other earring before I run it over with my chair. So then, so Saturday night, you do the smalls exchange, and then it's the raffles. And thankfully, she does ask everybody to write their name on the raffle tickets, because calling out 200 prizes, if she had to wait for people to look at tickets for numbers, we'd have been there all night. But I won the Treenway Silks Tea Time set. So a couple years ago at market, there were the designers that, like 6 or 8 designers, and they all design a pattern using the same floss pack, and this was the pack, and I have 2 of the patterns. But when I got the first one of the patterns, this was already pretty much sold out everywhere. Like, it was, you couldn't find it online. It was hard to track down. So I just was like, oh well, I'll just do it in different colors. But I won the silk floss pack. So 4 skeins of silks. And then I won a piece of Picture This Plus Helix, which of course the color is not going to show up right. It's a very pale gray. And it's a fat 1/8. But it's pretty. And then I'm on some kind of AuryTM kick, but this I won. So it was all kitted up. It is AuryTM Joy, which is a Quaker piece. Pseudo Quaker anyway. And all of the flosses. So it is a ton of floss in that. I think somebody counted on the pattern for me, and it's like 40 colors. I haven't counted the skeins of floss, but I'm assuming it's 40 skeins of floss. So yeah, I won that kit. So those were all of my drawing prizes. Now for the things I bought. I bought 2 Nurge hoops. I really wanted this super tiny one because it will work on things like this little tiny square of fabric. So it is just the perfect size for working on ornaments. I have used the smallest piece of Q-snap you can get to snap the 4 pieces together, and that gives a little square. But the Q-snap requires more fabric to go around each edge. This one I can, like the Q-snap wouldn't go on this. It wouldn't fit. But the Nurge fits. So that's why I bought that one. And then I don't know why I bought this one. Sometimes the Q-snaps get heavy. I really like Q-snaps. If I'm not using Q-snaps, I'm normally using one of the hoops that have kind of a spring tension thing inside. That's what I used for many, many, many years, but a lot of times the square shape of the Q-snap helps you not move it as often. But they do get heavy for me sometimes, and so I'm experimenting with Nurges. I have the bigger size Nurge. It doesn't really hold the fabric as tight as what I like. I think the spring tension and the Q-snaps hold the fabric more taut, but we'll see. The smaller it gets, the easier it is to deal with the tension. I wasn't going to buy any fabric, but I did buy some from Grace Notes. It was actually toward the end of the day, when she didn't have a lot left, but I discovered that she had 20 count Ada, and so I got some frosted lemonade, and I got 4 pieces of Ada here. Wind Song. It's a little greener than it's coming across. Kind of a dark, it's a little darker. Blue Spruce. I guess that color is pretty close. And Ginger, which is just it's a good fall color. So I love the daintiness of things stitched on 40 count linen. I just don't find stitching on 40 count relaxing. I find it to be a little tedious, and 20 count Ada solves that problem and get that same dainty look, but stitch over 1 instead of over 2. I did buy a Tiny Modernist pattern, Stitch and Be Merry, and I want to do that as a Christmas ornament. I wonder how long it would, wow, I need about 8 of them. And then the Works by ABC that I bought was $3.24 the sequel. So Arlene put out $3.24 the year before, and it uses every color of DMC. This is the sequel. $3.24 was all X's. It was cross stitch. This is probably more like stitches you would do for needlepoint or black work, kind of specialty stitches each little square is, and that's why I was drawn to this one. $3.24, not the sequel, the original. Hey, it's motifs and they're kind of connected by a line. It's a little more Quakery, less grid looking. But this, of course, is what works for specialty stitches. She has a new one coming out, not named yet, but it was stitched, and we got to see it there. She had it on the brag table, and it's like an octagon, and it's another one that's got, it's all specialty stitches. I don't know that it uses the whole 324 because she hadn't named it, so but yeah, I'm excited. I was excited to get this. I've wanted the pattern. I saw it somewhere else, and then I thought, no, you know what, I'll be at Stitch New Jersey, and if I buy it from Arlene, then Arlene gets all the money, and I would, since I have met her and know her a little bit, I would always associate the pattern with that retreat anyway, so I may as well just buy it there. So fantastic retreat. Now, since I got back, I can't believe it's been 2 weeks already. I spent a good chunk of the time stitching to Toledo to Toledo after I got back. And then I did a little bit more on that turtle. But I've been a little distracted by quilts, so I have shown this before that I finished, and so I've been straightening up my fabric stash to find a fabric that will go with this, so that I can make another one of these All the Things totes, but put that stitching thing on the side. And so and I've also been needing to straighten up my fabric So I have a pool table in my basement. I play pool, but I have not played pool on that table in a really long time, because that table is what I put my quilt tops on. So when I finish piecing a quilt top, if I'm not ready to quilt it, it gets spread out over that pool table. But that pool table is also where fabric that I buy often gets dumped. And so the pool table had become a disaster. I couldn't find anything, because when I say dumped, I literally mean dumped. Yeah, I'm just gonna stick with dumped. I got ready to say there was some organization to it, but things got dumped on top of the organization. So I was trying to sort out the fabric and get some order to that chaos, to find a fabric that I had in my head to use for the bag, for that piece. And then I also am trying to get down to some quilt tops. So I've been on a mission to try and get fully finished some quilts that I have had pieced for a very long time. So this last week I prepped 2 and sewed the backs together to go to a long armor. I have not used a long armor before. I typically quilt everything myself on my home machine, but for different reasons, these 2 in particular, I want to have long armed. Partly there's just not a quilting design that I can do on my home machine that I'm gonna like on either of these quilts. And then there's a third one that I need to get down to. So these 2 were easily accessible. They have been up here for me to get done and prepped into the long armor for a long time. But then I started thinking about it, and I thought, if I'm taking those 2 to the long armor, there's a third one that I had intended to long arm myself. So I went and got trained to long arm, and you can rent time at the local quilt shop to long arm. But I did one quilt after I went through the training class, and then I went and I did a queen size quilt, which is on my bed. I did not like long arming. It was boring. You had to stand the whole time. There was nothing at all enjoyable about it to me. And I like quilting on my home machine. So I expected that I would like quilting standing at the long arm machine, but no, I did not enjoy it. So I have this third quilt top, which is actually pumpkins. And I even have a pantograph that I had intended to long arm on it, but now it's been so long since I took the class and did the other quilt that I would have to retake the class, I think. I don't think I would remember enough for me to feel comfortable going in and using the equipment, even if she allowed me to. And I just don't know that I'm interested in taking the class again. So I needed to get down to this pumpkin quilt, but it was buried under this mess. So I've been spending a lot of time sorting out fabric, figuring out what I want to get rid. Some of it I'm just getting rid of. There's even a couple quilt tops that, one of them I don't even remember piecing. I obviously did, but I don't remember doing it. So some things like that, just cleaning up. And so I've been a little focused on quilting things. I also have Labor Day weekend. I go away with Silly Notion Stitcher on Flosstube and some other friends to a quote retreat house. So I think there's 6 of us going this year. And so I need to figure out what projects I'm taking for that weekend, because that's Thursday through Monday. So it's 5 days of quilting. The last couple years when I went, I spent half the weekend sewing project bags. I'm not taking project bags this time. Although if I find the fabric for the Beautiful Things piece, I will likely stitch my All the Things tote that weekend. So I got 2 quilts prepped with like all the loose threads snipped off the back and pressed and squared up, and the back had to be pieced together, and that's all squared up and pressed. I got the batting cut, so I've got 2 ready to go to the long armor. And then I did get down to the pumpkin quilt, which is part of what I was trying to do on this pool table. And then there was a Christmas quilt. Actually, it's rolled up back there now that I mention it, that I did manage to completely, I mean, I machine quilted it. I put the binding on. It's done, and it was not done before. So I've gotten a little sidetracked with quilting, and I need to spend a little more time with that because I still have to pick out the fabric for the All the Things tote, and I need to prep the pumpkin. So I'm going to have to do some quilt work over the next, well, I guess I have a month. No, 2 weeks, because I want to take them to the long armor middle of August. And then my other thought for August was that other than my focus piece, which is the Toledo to Toledo, and I need to catch up significantly on Put a Bird on It from the Put a Bird on It Sal. We should be a little more than 2/3 of the way done. I'm only about halfway, so I've got a significant amount left to do there. So that and my Toledo to Toledo. And then I thought I may only pull out things that I haven't touched yet this year. It would be nice to know that I had touched everything this year. And who knows, I may get something out to touch it and then remember that I loved stitching on it and get inspired to keep rolling. So that was my thought for August, was pull out some things that I had not touched. Which is a little hard to do with my 3 new starts, because my 3 new starts are what I really want to touch. But they'll wait. So yeah, that's going to be August. Finish cleaning out my quilting fabric and mystery tops. Some of them I remember piecing. I'm just not sure at this point what I'm going to do with them. You know, taste changed, and when I first started quilting, I was heavily influenced by the fabrics that the shops in my area sell, even though that's not where my tastes ended up landing after a couple years of quilting and some more exposure to different fabric shops. So I've got some piece tops that there is a thrift shop in the Lancaster area. It's Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It's Central PA. It's where there's a ton of Amish and Mennonite, and there's a ton of quilt shops. But there is a thrift shop there that I know sells pieced tops. So they wouldn't just get thrown out or shredded like if I took them to Goodwill. And so that may be what happens with a couple of my piece tops. I mean, I had the enjoyment of piecing them, but they just aren't something that I'm going to use at this point. And I may as well get them out of my basement and reduce some of this clutter. So that's my plans for August. Focus pieces and things that I haven't touched all year. And then September, I guess I could do sampler September. I probably have enough samplers right now that I will see when I go to pull everything out that I haven't touched, if there's enough that I could do sampler September this year. I'm not a huge sampler stitcher, but I do have a few Quakers in the works, and then I do have some things like Blue Rhapsody, Cornwall Cottage sampler. Samplers actually in the name. So maybe I do have enough samplers this year that I could do sampler September. That's my plan. What are you all stitching? And yeah, I guess that's everything for this evening. So happy stitching, everyone, and I will talk to you all again in 2 weeks. Bye.